supposed to be in the 90s or something like that. 90s, high 80s, 90s. Next few days going on from here on out till we're snow plowing again. So we got to put the cover on the greenhouse to keep it a little cooler in there. And I get to use my metal detector officially for the first time to find the stakes to tie it down with. Candy's really excited, you can tell. You gotta twist it around.
Probably be easier on your end, you got less material.
That's all right, that's... This is my new metal detector that I got from Amazon. It's called a Bounty Hunter. It was $100. It was Amazon's choice. And you know, for a guy that just needs stuff like this done and wants to find a quarter once in a while, this is the way to go. So buried along this greenhouse, underground for grass cutting purposes, is the stakes to hold the cover down. So we just kind of have to dig a little bit, and there's little hooks in there that we just tie it down to. Perfect. Look at that. See right there? Right here. Okay, I was able to find all these underground stakes really quickly. Works really well.
In some of our other videos, before we put the shade cloth on, you could see how bright it was in. You can, the sun is diffused now. It makes it a little bit cooler for me to work in here when I have to during the day. I try to only work in the morning and at night, in the evening hours, because it's still pretty warm in here, but it feels cooler already. It'll be helpful for the plants. Hopefully I won't have to water as much as well because the evaporation from that hot sun. And I'm doing a little different this year. I have more sun. We used to kind of make it even on top, but this year I decided we get more sun here on the south side, and that's why we situated the greenhouse right here, because we got the perfect south-facing area, unobstructed from any shade, etc. So it seems like I like that a lot better than what we've been doing previously. So I'm glad we got it on finally. You can see the catnip is, mint is about ready to flower here. My impatiens have grown a lot, those two in the corner there. My lemon basil's just loving this heat, of course. Parsley next to is starting to grow. I dry a lot of my herbs, try to use some fresh as well. These giant marigolds, they're just beautiful. Started everything from seed. So again, I'm not going to grow too much in here this year, so I can concentrate on the outdoor gardens. Peppers are starting to flower. Got little tiny buds on them right here. And I'm hoping that now that the shade cover's on, the tomatoes will leaf out a little bit better. But because they're in here, it shouldn't be a problem. When we get fruit, as you can see, they're flowering. When we get the fruit on there, they won't get sun scald in here. Like if you have leaf damage due to fungus or whatever outside and they lose their leaves, a lot of your tomatoes just will get sun scalded and not very nice looking. You can sometimes still use them, but I try to avoid that. These here, these are volunteer Aunt Molly ground cherry, so I'm letting a few go. My dill here starting to flower. This is all volunteer. When I say volunteer, it means I let it go to seed, the seeds fell, and now they're coming back. I didn't have to buy more seeds, and I just like the lot. It smells so good. So I like that. Kind of letting it go a little aggressive this year, but we'll use a lot of it. Planted some marigolds. They started from seeds. They're just tiny ones right there. I did plant, you can't see them because they're underground, I did plant about 10 gladiolas in here that I had left over from the ones I purchased in the winter. My sage plant is just loving the heat. Herbs love heat. And the nice thing about growing herbs in the greenhouse, they don't get as dirty if we get a lot of rain. So when I do collect them for dehydrating or drying, they're a lot easier to clean. And they don't mind the heat, and they don't mind dry conditions a lot of times. So if we're don't water for whatever reason, they'll be fine. But other than that, glad the shade cover's back on. And we do take it off in the winter, obviously, so the snow will fall off the greenhouse. And we got real lucky a couple years ago. We had this huge hailstorm, and the cover actually protected the plastic quite a bit, but we still, under insurance, got new plastic, new roofs, etc. But it did help. It didn't get big holes in it until such time we could get a replacement. We are officially done planting, finally. It's taken a long time this year because we had to wait for the thaw and etc. Mostly the thaw. Got some bachelor buttons here, one of my favorite flowers. They're so cute. Lore has it that in the old days, bachelors would wear them at parties so people would know they'd be available to marry. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a cute story nonetheless. Here's this flower that I did not plant. It looks like it's almost like related to pinks, maybe. I'm going to try to research it. I'm glad I left it here because I wasn't sure if it's good, what it was going to bloom into, but I like it. The yarrow that I'm testing out this year is doing really well. I'll see how it grows, and if it does well, I've got some seeds. I'll start them myself. These were store-bought. They were reasonably priced, and that's the main reason I purchased them. Plus, I got a lot of plants for a small amount of money. Although we all know that the plants are so expensive now, I fear that a lot of them are just going to be thrown away. As we mentioned the other day at Fleet Farm, clearance has already started. It's not the end of June. Zucchini, we love zucchini. They're doing really well. This one a friend of mine gave me. It's starting to rebound. Looked like it was just overwatered, but that's normal. Right here, I planted my okra. I hope it does well. I planted it a little prematurely, but I just wanted to get everything in the ground. I kind of started the seeds a little later. Next year I'll do better. My pickles are starting to finally come up. The only thing I'm really going to can this year are green beans, pickles. We have a root cellar, so I can put the rutabaga and carrots down. Planted some kale here, kind of late. Here's that store-bought cabbage. It's really doing well. So far, the cutworms haven't gotten to them. I do put tinfoil at the stems because the stems are really thin, but sometimes they still get them underground. Hard to tell, but I have some lettuce growing right here amongst the volunteer weeds. I still have a lot of room to plant in the fall. If I choose to, I'll probably do some turnips and maybe some more cabbage. I've got to make a decision here because we had a late bloom of, as you can see, things I don't want in my garden. And this is where my carrots are. Well, the carrots look just like grass when it first comes up. So I might just go ahead and tear it all down, even though the carrots have finally germinated, and just replant. It's still early enough for that, because to try to get the carrots to be the dominant vegetable here is going to be kind of tough. These potatoes have finally started to come up. Some of them are still underground, but that's okay. They'll emerge when they're ready. I like the potato plants. They're really pretty. And up here, because we have long summer days and short winter days, we usually they'll grow potato seed pods. So that's pretty nifty. Kind of like our hardneck garlic, we get scapes. These are some onions that are about ready to go to seed, and I'm going to collect those. Cranberries are just doing awesome this year. Get a lot of those. We can freeze those. They're not the ones you, like I've said before, like the big ones you got buy in the store, but they are nice and tasty. Cranberries here as well. I mean, look how tall they're getting. Just the perfect spot for them. My coneflowers are about ready to bloom. Now here's my prized possession in the garden, my false indigo. I have it in several gardens, and it's part of the pea family. So it's just the most beautiful flowers, and I'm going to get these bugs. I don't want these bugs in my garden. Get them while I see them, while they're mating. Bumblebees just love, look at that huge bumblebee. Just loving the false indigo. There we go. Got him. So pretty much everything's looking real good here. Some more false indigo, of course. I planted everywhere. Now you gotta be careful because look at this, some more. Mating. No, I don't think so. So at the end of the bloom season, they'll grow these pods that look like peas, obviously because part of the pea family. Well, they'll turn dark and they have a lot of seeds. If you don't want these to self-sow, you gotta get those pods off, either in their unripened form or when they turn black. Oregano is about ready to flower. So pretty much everything's here, and it's kind of a nice time so I can just pay attention to things that need to be done. It's the maintenance part of the gardening season. Just perfect weather today. It was pretty hot yesterday, but we managed to get everything done we needed to get done before it got too hot. Here's my volunteer columbine. Aren't they pretty? Isn't that an interesting flower? So I'm glad I kept them. Started some zinnias here. They're doing good, so I planted them. Cilantro, hard to tell, it's starting to come up. The tomatoes are loving the garden, starting to go to flower. We'll get some tomatoes real soon. The tomatillos that I had to store by are doing well. These were some onion sets. I just planted them really close together so I can get more like green onions versus bulb onions. Lupine right there, blooming. That was a gift years ago. What I'm really waiting for is for my beans to germinate over here. And it shouldn't be long. It takes about 7 to 10 days. And that hot weather we had yesterday should really help, but it shouldn't be long that I'll start seeing those come up. This, again, a volunteer hollyhock made its home right here about 2-3 years ago. I'm glad I kept it because, man, it's just gorgeous, just gorgeous. And right, again, this is pretty much what we're doing here. Just coming in the gardens every day, making sure no bugs, no, you know, if you've got a fungicide. It's real humid here, so we got a fungicide. I always call it Fungicide Friday. That way I'll remember to do it. Got some volunteer parsnips, and they grow some really cute flower heads, and then I can collect the flowers at the seeds. This was my original false indigo, and this has been here for years. It's just beautiful. These grapes have been here for years and years and years. Last year, a cute couple, I called them over so they could harvest them. But it's hard to believe that here you have the grapes that are going to grow into the large grapes that you like. These are not seedless, so if you want seedless, make sure you check out the variety that you get. But it's pretty cool how a bunch of grapes will grow off these little tiny flowers. This Honeycrisp apple tree, I think, is a goner. We might take it out next year. We'll see what happens. A couple years ago, bad storm got a hold of it and it cracked it. And anytime you see mushrooms growing on something, you usually know that mushrooms like to grow on dead things. So I think we're going to have to say goodbye to that tree. State Fair's looking good. That's about a 2 or 3 year old tree. You can see got a little tiny apple wanting to be born right there. The elderberries, if you grow elderberries, make sure you buy a male and a female. I have Adam and York variety because they need a pollinator. We make tinctures out of that. The berries you can't typically eat hand to mouth. They're considered not really poisonous, but very hard to tolerate. So we usually just make our tinctures out of them. These potatoes are doing really good, really nice. Got my straw piled up around them. So these are pretty much done. All I gotta do is keep an eye on them. Planted a few more okra here. I think yep, sure enough. Cutworm looks like got one of mine. Hopefully I'll find it. I'll have to come back. Typically, if you find a cutworm that got one of your plants, you dig around the plant, and usually it's still laying there. But I'll come back later and dig around the others. Tinfoil sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. But the reason that those are vulnerable to cutworms is because the stems are so tiny, the cutworm can just circle around it and cut it right at the base. This German purple striped garlic is about to go to scape. They're flowering, and that's a real prize. Typically you find it in farmers markets because it's only a one-time-a-year event. And then scapes is just a curlicue flowering head, and then it's good. You can put them in salads, you can blanch them, you can pickle them, you can fry them up a little bit, put them as a side dish. They're really tasty. These red Ravada currants will turn a beautiful red, hence the name. The Saskatoon are really loaded this year. They flowered real well. Gooseberries over there. A lot of people like to make gooseberry pies. They'll get a little larger. But this is one of the first plants that will flower that helps the pollinators. If you're planning on wanting to start any fruit production, be small scale or large scale, you want to get your plants in because it can take years for them to really start being productive, because they have to grow their roots, they have to get situated, and again, you know, these were like little sticks when we first put them in the ground, and now here we are. Oh, the roses are about ready to bloom. No aphids on them yet. These are the black currants here. Be curious to taste those. We put them in the ground. Oh, I haven't been in the garden for a couple days. I've been busy. We'll get a nice handful of rose hips, it looks like, this year. Nice. It's always nice coming to the garden and getting a surprise. I've been so busy in the other gardens. And we're getting lots of cherries. Here we go, right there. They'll get a little bit bigger, not much. They're small but tasty. The new blueberry plants I planted are doing well. Oh, this one's starting to bloom right here. Nice. Our Lodi tree. We don't get a lot of apples from this tree. It looks like this year we actually might. Got a little wormy action going on. Anytime you see those leaves folded over like that, you know there's a worm in there, so you just kill it. You don't want them to destroy my tree. But there you go. We all got a surprise today with the garden tour. Chokeberries. We'll probably, anytime between August and September is usually when these ripen. Every year's different. Last year it was early because it was so darn hot. So I hope it's a little later. Got some radishes. I'm gonna do another start of radishes. They grow fast. If you've never gardened and you're intimidated by it, because it can be, you don't want to fail. Radishes are great first introduction plant, especially for kids, because they're basically a no-fail plant. They'll just pop right up. They're quick. So that's it. There's our gardens.